All right, we're gonna start now. Go back. Hear the gong. Yeah, that's good for you guys. Let me move this over here. All right, this is Angela and Amelia's famous YouTube video premiere. World premiere, take one. All right, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give free gifts to all the children in the world, right? So everybody come over here. Right? Everybody put your hand on it. Stand next to me, Amelia, and Angela, put your hand on it. All right. All right. So the first free gift we're gonna give to kids is the dream bracelet, right? So little kids, everybody gets a power symbol on their wrist, and they can play Wi-Fi Roblox in their dreams, right? So that's mainly, what are you guys playing in your dreams? Which one? Adopt Me, and what else? There was like what? All right. So it is 5:35 and 12 seconds, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, so first free grip, let's hit it. Hold on, wait. 1, 2, 3, go. That was a good one. Did you feel that? All right, next free gift is for the older kids, right? If you have problems, right? You're angry with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or you don't know what to do. That's what your dreams are for. You can have any game you want. You can. One of my friends killed all the zombies. You can play any game you want in your dreams, and you can sleep for an hour and have a dream for 20 hours if you want. It's up to you. Time is unlimited. Do your thing. All right, ready for that free gift? All right, 1, 2, 3. That's 5:36 and 8 seconds. All right, and the third free gift. You want to do world peace? All right, we're gonna try for world peace. All right, they want world peace because they're my best friends. All right, go 1, 2, 3, go. 5:36 and 26 seconds. All right, so this is gonna be hard for me. So what we're gonna talk about is a little bit of physics and a little bit of belief. Angela, you're supposed to take care of this. Amelia, you're supposed to give me a beat. Angela. And Amelia, a quiet beat. A quiet beat. And personally, I would be playing Jack Johnson upside down to this, but copyright issues. We don't want this, your first video, to get pulled off of YouTube. So we'll just sit over here in the corner. Now that we already started the magic spell, or what is it? Is it magic? It's math. It's math. All right. So what we're going to attempt to do. All right. Not so much. Settle down. What we're going to attempt to do is prove that quantum gravity is probability on the flat scale of time. But to do that, that's weird. It's weird. Right? So, oh, where's my iPad? First, let's go back to the free gifts. I just want to talk about free gifts for a second. So, I'm gonna go get a marker from my desk. No, just get a marker right here. All right. I'm so unprepared for this stuff. Get back in frame of me. It's important. You gotta take this seriously if I want to be famous.
Yes, I do.
Alright, Angela, face the camera. Why are you sitting in a chair facing away from the camera? You're supposed to be a famous YouTuber. And what famous YouTuber does that? Alright, so let's draw a pretty picture. Let's draw. I'm a horrible at drawing. Right? But that's the power symbol that will be on your wrist, right? That's the power symbol you guys got?
Yeah.
And what powers does it give you? Give me an example of your magic powers that it gives you in your dreams.
It can make you go anywhere you want in your dreams.
Anywhere you want. What else can you do? You can talk over there, Angela.
Super.
Speak declaratively. What have you done?
I
outside your dreams? I thought you said you did.
And did you go to India?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you saw them dancing. All right, so remember everybody, power symbol, where is it, Angela? And does it glow?
Yes.
You're supposed to talk to the camera, you're a famous YouTuber. All right, I want you to understand something. You may feel like this is just, you know, us at work, but this is your premier famous, world famous YouTube video, right? Everything else, there's gonna be reaction videos, why are you looking at me? Turn around and look at the camera, Angela. They're trying to see your reaction, not my reaction. Right? I'm just sitting here. I'm just here trying to help you guys out. All right? So what we're gonna do, we have some props here, right? And what we're gonna do, we're gonna start off. It's kind of a long story. We gotta start off at the beginning of my life. All right? And the way you start a good story always, you know, we got stories here, Princess Bride, and we got my favorites, The Hitchhiker's Guide. So remember, don't panic, right, Amelia?
Yes.
And always know where your towel is, right? Okay. So we're gonna talk about your dad. All right. Do you want me to sit over here, Angela, so you can stop turning around and they can see your face? All right. Let's see if that's gonna be in frame. I'll get a little bit closer. All right, so your dad, before me, had parents, right? And my parents had parents. Are you surprised?
No.
It's a shock. All right, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about them because that'll help you understand a little bit about me. All right, and you're gonna understand how a family tree works. All right. So, a family tree, I've got me, I got my mom and dad, and their parents, right? So, my dad and my mom, right, on their side, they had a dad and a mom. All right, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about them, right? That's where we're gonna start. So on my dad's side, his dad was a firefighter, right? I'm telling you this so you guys can put the pieces together later, all right? Just like me, but I didn't know until after I was a firefighter. When I knew him, he was my grandfather, and he played, like, he ran numbers, all right? I'm hoping that a whole bunch of people post links and stuff to all the references that I'm talking about. He ran numbers, so he did lottery for people, right? And he installed boilers. His wife was a lunch lady, right? That was my Nana Peggy. That was John and Margaret, right? My Nana Peggy. And I remember she would go to church all the time, right? I remember my grandfather would let me sit in the front and make her and my sister sit in the back, all right? And I'm gonna tell you this story in order of feeling, all right? So I want you to think about this meter right here, right? Filling up, or the picture like this that I showed you before, and I'll have links to all this stuff on the YouTube video or whatever. But I want you to think about stuff filling up. And if you think of this, I want you to think of this as feeling really, really good. And everything else is not great, right? So you have John, Peggy, and then on my mom's side, you had Alexander and Tsilla, right? Babushka and Dedushka. Right, they were from my grandfather. Now these guys were from Nova Scotia, and then originally from Scotland, right? Their family somewhere in Scotland. We're from the McLean of Duar, right? And this side, my grandfather was Polish, right? And my grandmother was Ukrainian. All right. My grandfather, his family, I'm going to tell you as far back as it goes, they said like his grandfather was going to be either some famous religious guy or not into religion at all. I remember talking to my grandfather like when he was getting ready to die. My uncle knows about it, stuff like that. And my grandmother, she was a biochemist. My grandfather was an architect, right? In World War II, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
All right, it was a big war. They blew up my grandfather's house. And what happened was back then, you had to join the military. And he joined, they thought the Russians were coming from behind him to help him, but the Russians had joined with the Germans, and so he got captured. He got put in a concentration camp, and then he got released when the Germans flipped on the Russians, and then he got captured by the Germans, and then the Allies won, and he got released, whatever. He came to America. He came to America with like $25 in his pocket, I think he said. He ended up buying a really nice house that's near Boston, in Brookline, where I was born. So my dad, these guys, they were from the 60s and stuff like that, right? My mom was born, my mom was 30. She was born on Christmas. She was 30 when I was born. When I was born, you were born on my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
Right? My dad was 2 years younger than her. All right. I hope people keep track of this online at some point. You know, they probably will. So my dad was younger. I don't know much about him. He didn't tell me much about high school. They called him, his nickname was Crash. He got in a lot of trouble, so he didn't tell me much. And that's why I'm telling you guys, so you guys can not have to guess and try to figure out the bad parts later, right? My mom was like a hippie flower child, and you met her later. You didn't, but you know she got crazy later.
Yeah.
And that's me. And then I got you guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of history about my family, where I come from, right? And everybody met, my mom and dad met in Boston, right? Or Brookline. They went to school there. They were like high school sweethearts or whatever, right? It was wild. It doesn't really matter. There's plenty of stuff. I'm gonna try to go as quickly as I can, right? Because I know content, but we gotta go quickly. All right. Anyways, my parents married. I was born in 1980, right? The youngest thing that I remember is in the sink getting a bath by my grandparents. And I remember looking up and seeing the faucet come down on me. I remember the water being warm and my grandmother holding me, you know. What's the youngest thing you guys remember?
Probably when we went to Disneyland.
What about you?
When I went to somewhere with Mom.
Okay. So I remember back real young, right? Now, let me see. I got some stuff on here. This way I can kind of jog my memory. This is my mom. You remember my mom, right?
Yeah.
She's real short like you guys. You can see her up here. That was my mom. She was weird. She smelled like carrots. She had weird eye makeup. She carried, you know, at the end, the older she got, the weirder she got. What did I want to tell you? All right, now I'm gonna tell you this story, and I want you to understand it by emotion, all right? Not by time, right? So I'm going to try to lead you through it by emotion, like a movie, right? And it would be real nice if it wasn't copywritten and I could put a soundtrack to this, but whatever. All right, so that was my mom. And later on, my mom and dad would fight a lot, and we lived in a house in Jamaica Plain. And we had a dog called Radar, I remember a peach tree and a little fireplace. And then we moved to Medfield, and we had my sister. She's 2 years younger than me. We might have moved before. But Medfield's like the first house I remember. It was Causeway Street in Medfield. I think it was 123 maybe. It was right on the corner. And I have a lot of memories from there. I have a memory of my dad throwing my mom down the stairs. I have memories of my mom having a lot of coupons and getting us stuff from the trash, like toys and stuff. All my toys were from the trash. I had memories of not being afraid. I wasn't scared back then. And I want to show you how that grows like a tree too. All right. And this will make more sense to you. It'll make more sense, I think, if I explain it now. Because you start as like a seed, right? And then so you grow and your brain grows too, right? So right here when I was young, I had certain brainwave patterns, right? And you know, my parents were fighting and I didn't know any better. I was just left alone. And there were certain things that I remember doing. I remember every night I would dream about the future, what would happen the next day. Remember how you dreamed the future the other day? Was it like that? Yeah. I dreamt, I used to have this one dream over and over and over about just an empty cave. It was like on the top of a mountain and there was like a garage door and it was just an empty cave. And I'd have this dream all the time and there was nothing in there. It was so weird. I didn't feel anything about it. It was just an empty cave. So I had a lot of dreams about that. And then, you know, it wasn't until years later that my mom told me about the lucid dreaming, the video games. But then I remember one time floating to the ceiling, right? I would stay in my room a lot, and I remember I was sad all the time. I was always sad. So my feelings were always in the bottom of this thing, right? And I didn't like the fighting. My dad would one time he took me to Canada in his airplane, and he just left me in the room, and somehow I figured out how to call my mom. I think I was 2 years old, and I didn't know where he went. He just left. So I always felt really alone. And when I was like 4 or 5, they broke up, and a lot of it's hard to remember. You know how it's hard to remember as a kid? But I remember I was staying with my grandparents a lot. You know, there was times in the house. Oh, one time I saw the future and I told my mom about it, about how I was going to burn my chest, and then I burnt my chest. So that was like the one time I told anybody about it. Anyways, I stayed at my grandparents a lot, and it's weird because I don't remember my dad hitting me, and I don't remember when they took pictures of like all the bruises on me and stuff, but I remember it happened, you know, but you don't think about that, you know what I mean? You're in your own head. You don't think about what's happening to your body. You just want it to not be happening, you know what I mean? And let's see, when we got to so it was grandparents. And my grandparents were good, right? But I understand where my dad got it from, because his dad, he would hit me with the belt and chase me around the house. He used to just sit on his chair and watch wrestling, take me out sometimes. And I just didn't get the feeling that they really liked boys that much. They liked girls. And same way with me, you know I like girls. You know I love my babies. So, let me see, where were we? Were you paying attention?
About your grandparents?
Grandparents, yes. So I would go back and forth. Let's see some things I remember from there. I remember my mom's mother was my favorite grandparent. I had the best connection with her. We both had this thing on our finger, this little, see that little white dot right there?
Yeah.
Right, see that little white dot right there on that finger?
Yeah.
We both had that. And, you know, there's just something about her that when I looked at her, she knew. I was young. You know, this is 3 years old. We knew, you know, we just knew. That was my favorite. My grandfather, the architect, he was everything was neat and in its place and super organized. My grandfather, John, he was my favorite grandfather. He was fun. He would take me places. And Nana Peggy, she would cook. You know, both my grandmothers would cook. Her food was better. I didn't really like the Russian food that much. I'm gonna get off track if you guys don't pull me forward. You gotta help me out here. We gotta keep this. You guys are supposed to be the best interviewers ever. All right. So where were we? So I was staying at their houses a lot, but it's not, you know, the same staying at your grandparents' house. So I didn't really have a home. You know what I mean? And I ended up staying at my dad got married eventually, but we ended up staying at her house. And I had 2 stepsisters, and that was probably the worst. They used to just lock me in my room. And my dad was an alcoholic. He sold cars, so he wasn't home much. You guys know I'm always working hard. I'm not home much. And it was my step grandmother and her mom and my stepmother and their daughters that basically would take care of me. But it was just always me grounded. I was always in trouble. There was a bunch of stuff that they made me do there. Like, I had to write the entire dictionary. And they would just lock me in rooms for hours. So I would read and read and read and read and read. At 6, I read the book It. You guys remember It? Huge book. When I was, hundreds and hundreds of books, because that's all I could do. And I remember, you know, it was normal routine. My dad would come home and he would hurt me every night. He would twist my arms or hit me or whatever, but it was just part of it. And I was bad too, you know. There was one point where I think I was 6 or 7, maybe 8, I don't know. My dad took me to Kmart. You know what Kmart is. And I couldn't see over the register, you know, the conveyor belt, and there was matches up there. And they must have fell out of his pocket. I don't know where they came from, but he just started screaming at me. Where did you get these from? You went down into my room, you took my matches. I couldn't even see up there, didn't know where they came from. Anyways, he took the whole family to the arcade and made me stay home. And I watched them from out the window, and I said, if I'm gonna get in trouble for stuff I didn't do, I might as well just start doing stuff to get me in trouble. And that's where I kind of got bad. And I got arrested at 9 years old for shoplifting. I got arrested at 10 years old. Oh, and at 8 years old, I remember laying in my bed. Oh, this is an important one. I remember laying in my bed, and I just hated life. My mom I was going on a visit. She lived with my grandparents in Brookline. She was homeless for a while sometimes, living in cars and stuff like that. But I went down there, and there was a for sale sign on the house, and nobody had told me about it. I just went to visit, and all of a sudden, the house was for sale, and that messed me up. Then I didn't really want to live anymore, and I didn't understand why it hurt so bad, why I had to go through so much hurt all the time. They said I was really smart, so my mom had me start kindergarten at 3. So I was 2 years younger than everybody in school, and I would get beat up constantly. There was one time they pulled me under the school bus seat by my shoelaces and up the other side. It was a lot. It was a lot. You guys don't have that, right? That's good. I don't want you to have that. So I would go to school and get beat up, and I would come home and get beat up, and I would get locked in a room. And yeah, I didn't understand why. And I remember having a dream like yours where I went to Thailand. And it's weird because, you know, you guys are half Thai and we have a house in Thailand and everything. But is that thing still recording? Make sure that's recording. I don't want to start this all over again.
Yeah, it's recording.
All right. That was close. All right. So I remember that was the first time I wanted to die, and I thought about taking my soldering iron. Do you know what a soldering iron is? It's for fixing electronics. And I thought about putting it in the bathtub and frying myself, but I didn't want to do it. You know, I just thought about it, and I thought maybe there was another kid somewhere else that's happy, you know, and it's okay. I can soak up the unhappiness, right? I can take it. Because why not? Why don't I just take it? You know, let me be happy that someone else is happy. And that made me feel okay. That made me feel better. And, you know, what are you gonna do? There's all kinds of things. I just kept getting beat up, and my dad was an alcoholic, and fighting with my stepsisters. I was really good in school. I was really smart. Best on all the tests, but I wouldn't do anything at home. I wouldn't do homework because I was getting beat up, and I just wanted to read. I wanted to be in a different world. And I didn't like old stuff. I liked the future. I liked something different, something new, right? Where was I? You guys gotta help me.
Got beat up in school.
Oh yeah. So my dad ended up getting divorced, and they sent me down to Florida to live with my mom. This was when I was like 9 or 10, something like that. And I lived with her for like a year. So they put me in gifted classes. One of the kids in my class got stabbed in the neck and died. I stopped going to school. My mom didn't care. She let me do whatever. So I went from 90 pounds to 180 pounds in 1 year. I would sleep all day and just stay up all night playing video games. Final Fantasy, Zelda was my favorite. That's why I told you I used to go in my lucid dreams. That's when I started lucid dreaming Zelda. That's when my mom told me. And I remember she was big into all the psychic stuff, and I thought it was cool. I didn't understand. You know, she had a big dream book, What Dreams Mean, or something in the bathroom. You know, so she could read, you know, you're a kid, who cares, right? You guys don't care about my stuff, right? No, not really. You care about Roblox. right? And that's why I'm telling you this, because later on in life, you'll eventually care, right? And this way, if I can get it all out, you know, we can do it all at once, right? So where was I? It's hard for me to remember the past. It seems like so far away.
You were telling us
the part where you got
Moved to
tested.
Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do all kinds of crazy stuff. I would like lock put handcuffs on myself and throw the keys in the swimming pool and dive in and try to get myself out. You know, I thought about like what magicians would do. I probably shouldn't have done this, but that, you know, my mom just let me do everything. She was a hoarder, so our house, her car, everything was just piled with junk, all the way to the ceiling. It was like going through a cave. It was horrible. The police were involved more than once, all kinds of stuff. So after a year, I ended up moving back with my dad, and that was in Hopedale. No, Milford? I don't know. Milford. He was with a new girlfriend or his old apartment or something like that. That's when I really started getting into trouble. He was at work all the time. At first, I was okay. And I went to ski club, and a kid offered me a puff of a cigarette. And I was always getting beat up. The kid next to me, he took a puff and he coughed like crazy. My parents chain smoked, so they gave me a puff. And I was fine. And they thought it was cool. So after that, I started smoking like crazy because I wanted to be cool. And you know how it is, you know. Sometimes it's hard to get rid of old habits. You know, you don't want to pass those on to your kids. So you tell them why you did it and why it's a bad idea. And you hope your kids will listen. Right? So it was like a couple weeks before I went from smoking cigarettes to smoking weed to just being bad. And I was acting out. You know, I didn't care. I was getting beat up anyway. I had a mohawk. I wore like chains to school and a trench coat. And this is before there was a whole trench coat mafia thing. This is before that. I wore everything plaid. And I just kept getting into trouble. I remember I was really good at music. You know how much I love music.
Yeah.
Which I wish there was music playing right now. But I did 3 years of music theory. I took a year of flute, and I went from 13th seat to 2nd seat my first year. Right, the only girl that was better than me was being tutored by the Boston Philharmonic, whatever. And then I also joined jazz band and played the trombone. It's really easy to switch instruments when you know one. I'm good with music. I'm not so good with real languages. All right. So I actually quit band because my band teacher saw me smoking a cigarette outside, and he said I couldn't do the lighting for a concert if he saw me smoking again. And I said, you know what then? I'm going to do my own thing. And that's always been kind of my thing, is I did things that excite me until something didn't excite me anymore. All right. Then I remember I had my first girlfriend, Colleen. All right. It was my sister's friend. We dated for a month. But you know, when you're in love, you're in love. Right, Amelia? You know that feeling, right, Amelia? You do stupid stuff. So we dated for like a month, and we broke up because her friend said stuff, and nobody cares. Who cares, right? And I got worse. I got bad. I was doing a lot of drugs, mainly smoking weed and acid, LSD, psychedelics. All right. I did coke a couple times back then, but not much. It was mainly that. I wanted to just fry my mind, right? And the weird thing was I could never hallucinate. You don't know what that is now, but that means I could never see visuals. Normally when people do that, they see the walls melt and stuff like that. I could never do that. I could never hear voices. I would just watch people and try to understand them. You know, why are people doing this? Why are people doing that? And when I was 16, I remember I had a girlfriend. I dated her, I don't know, maybe 9 months. And I was really bad to her. I was doing drugs, I was already working, I was getting beaten up. But I was really bad to her. I thought I was really smart. And I am. I'm really smart. I was always the best at school, right? I took my school to math counts and to regionals. You know, I always was really good at learning because I loved learning. And I thought she was stupid. And I thought she was lucky to be with someone as smart as me. And I was mean to her. And I kept breaking up with her, and eventually she wouldn't get back together with me. And there was a lot of stuff going on at the time too. The cops were looking for me, and I ended up going into the woods and I stabbed myself in the neck a bunch of times. Have I told you guys that before? You see it? All right. And it's crazy. Nothing happened. They took me to the hospital. They sewed me up. I remember I got out, I had to go to the mental hospital. Oh my God, speaking of the mental hospital, I forgot to tell you, while I was living with my mom, all of a sudden one day she throws me in the mental hospital for a week. I think it was like 5 days. And she told them that I was beating her, and it never happened. But when I got out, she said, I said, why did you do that? She said, so you would learn. So whatever, I learned. Anyways, so yeah, I had to go to the mental hospital for that. And when I came out, someone punched me in the face. One of my best friends punched me in the face, so it would look like it was my fault that he cheated on his girlfriend or something like that. So I was like, am I even in reality? Did I die already? So life was already not great. And I was doing a lot of drugs, like I said. And I started going and trying to find religion. And I started reading a lot of stuff about religion. All the different religions. And I tried going to church with one of my friends. You know, I had gone to church before. My grandparents on the other side were Jewish, so I'd gone to temple before, but the churches and temples I went to, they spoke different languages, so I didn't understand those. And I tried going to other churches with my friends, but there was things I didn't like. They didn't like gays, they didn't like this, they didn't like that. And I didn't like that. I can't, you know, I couldn't say that I felt the things that they felt. And I looked into all the gods. I looked into comic books. I looked into Greek religion, Roman religion, you know, the Native Americans. You guys learned all kinds of Native American stuff, right? I told you I always felt real drawn to Thailand, so a lot about Buddhism and stuff like that. But the one that really stuck with me was the yin yang, right? And you know, I got the yin yang tattooed. I got two of them. I got one up here and one down there. I guess I can show everybody. I'm cold, so I'm just gonna do it real quick. Pull up my sleeve so that everybody can see it. All right, the top one. Yeah, move your sleeve so. See? So that was always important to me. And I remember really going into it. I was always getting arrested, but in my mind, that period of time was just quick. It was just me trying to understand. I didn't care what happened. You know, I had jobs. I was a mechanic. I would visit my dad at work. I rebuilt starters and alternators. You know, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. But that wasn't where my mind was. My mind was trying to figure out why, right? And eventually I remember I got expelled. I got expelled from 2 different schools. I pulled a knife on a kid, on 2 kids at one school, and the other school I just stopped going to classes. I was smoking cigarettes in the hallways and stuff like that. And the last class I went to was the typing class, because I would just smoke weed and go to my typing class and skip the rest of the day. I had a job outside. I didn't care. And they sent me to another school that was just drug dealers and stuff like that. Paul J. Primavera, alternative something. It was all the bad kids. And what I ended up doing, I forged my dad's signature on the drop slip and took my GED the same night. So by the time my dad got home, I had already taken my GED and he couldn't put me back in school. And they, when I got it, it was like the president's list or something like that. I have a copy of it somewhere. They said I was on the president's list. I was 16. I didn't care. And I remember the military came to see me at that age, which was weird, and to try to get me to go in. I think because I was a troublemaker, but I don't know, the scores or whatever. And I said I didn't want to cut my hair. So this has already taken a long time. So it's boring, isn't it? Are you bored? Angela's bored. So, you know what we should do? All right, everybody's bored. Let's do this real quick. Shake some shakers. See, these guys can pause it and come back. I already gave them the magic, so now they just have to hear the story. All right. Shake it. Does that wake you up? You want to go like this? I should have told everybody how to loosen up at the beginning. They're just going to have to wade through it. All right, so where was I?
The part where you picking the military thing, the military came to you.
Okay, yeah, military came to me, so whatever. That's not that big of a deal. They try to recruit everybody, right? So who knows why, I didn't care. So I ended up going back to the high school and walking through one day and seeing Colleen again, right? And we ended up starting dating. And am I boring you? What do you do when you're tired? All right. So I ended up, where was I? Colleen, yeah. Oh man. So I ended up dating her again, and I would sneak out, we would meet up, we would go to the cemetery late at night and do drugs and just like be romantic. It was super in love. She was the yin to my yang. She was the greatest, right? But at 18, 3 days after I turned 18, I was always fighting with my dad. I ended up selling my car and moving to Florida with my mom again. And I sat around, I was repairing monitors for a couple months with her boyfriend and printers. And I ended up just angry and bored, and out of a newspaper fell a thing for college. So I went to college for computer networking. I met some of my best friends, Orlando, Angela Clemente, Angela Clementine. Where do you think you got your name from? And where were we? Right. So hung out with my best friends, ended up getting some jobs. I was spending all my money on drugs and alcohol and partying, and I was just miserable all the time. That's the whole point, is no matter where I ran, I was still miserable, right? And I ended up, I don't know, getting an, oh, no, then what really happened is, Colleen died. And I found out a couple days later, and it really messed me up. It messed me up for years. Because we never had a chance for anything to be bad. It was perfect. It never had a chance to get bad. And it really, really messed me up. So the whole time, like on that scale, I was at the very bottom of that scale, right? I already wanted to die, but I had already tried it and it didn't work, so what was I gonna do, you know? The only thing I really ever cared about is I wanted to be a grandparent. I remember at 3 years old, I wanted to be a grandparent. So, whatever, I didn't know. You know, I can't die, just keep living. So I joined the military, just to get away. I was doing a lot of cocaine too. And I went to take the test for the military, and I was gonna join the Air Force. They got through, they told me it was gonna be like 3 months to take the test. It's called the ASVAB. And I didn't want to. I just wanted to go. I wanted to get away. I didn't like my mom. I didn't like my apartment. And I walked next door to the Marines. They got me in like the next night. I took some ginkgo biloba. I wore a sweater. I finished 45 minutes quicker than the next person. I was the fastest one. And I scored a 99 percentile. So it's the highest score you can get on the ASVAB. They said I could have missed no more than 6 questions, but it doesn't mean it's a perfect score. It just means it's the highest percentile score you can get. So I did really good. And they wanted me to go into military, nuclear stuff and like desk job stuff, and I didn't want to do that because I already had gone for computers, and it was boring to me. All right, I wanted to do stuff that I was bad at. I didn't want to be the best at anything. I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to fix the stuff I was bad at, so I didn't feel weak. Right? Oh, I'm skipping around. Oh, the yin yang. Okay, yeah, I'll get to that. Okay, this is what happens when you get old and fixed. Right? So, what are you looking at? You scared?
No.
So, what was I? I've never told my life story before. This is difficult. Without writing it down. Right. Except to my therapist, who she wrote it down. What was I? No, forget that part. Okay, so fiance died, joined the military. I'd already done programming computers and monitor repair and stuff
Do
like
what
that.
you're good at.
Yeah. So I wanted to be infantry. They wouldn't let me do that because my scores were too high. And I ended up choosing aviation ordnance. They said I wanted to write my name on bombs. They ended up giving me firefighter. You know, I wanted to take out my anger and go shoot people, and they gave me the one job in the Marine Corps where you don't kill people. So, whatever, you don't get to pick, right? So I went home. I remember it was 5 days before I was supposed to go, and I wanted to do some coke before I left. So don't do drugs, right? None of my friends answered, and it was just me. And it was either do it or I couldn't do it. It was 5 days before it's supposed to stay in your system for 3 days. So I did the whole bag. It was locked by myself. I was just angry. sweating in bed. It was horrible. And I ended up going. I had the recruiter stop at the pharmacy and take a drug test, give me a drug test, and I was going to fail the drug test, and I was going to get kicked out of the I wasn't going to be able to go in the Marines. I was real nervous. And they got through half the names. I was just sitting there all day drinking water. They put me up in a hotel. 4:30 in the morning, they brought me back, and it was September 11th, 2001. That's the day they bombed the World Trade Center. And I got to. It was another 3 more days before I could get to boot camp, so I didn't have to worry about the drug test. It was clear. But I didn't hear any news for 3 months until I got to fire school, so I didn't really know what happened. Boot camp was awesome. I loved it. It was do what you're told, and nobody beat me up. So it was great. Although I didn't get beat up in Florida, but it was just a bunch of bad memories either way I go. So I didn't mind it. It felt like what really made me join was this movie Starship Troopers, right? Where in the movie you had to join the military. You had to be a citizen to vote, to own property, to do anything. And so much to remember. And that's what I felt like. If you want to be a part of this, you should give yourself to it. And I didn't care about my life anyway. So I decided join the military, do it so other people could have happy lives, so you guys could have happy lives. But I want you guys to join the military too, because it's awesome. It's the best experience. Let's see if I can use this to jog my memory. I don't have military pictures. Let's skip over that. All right. All right, so where was I, Angela? All right. Where was I, Amelia? Yeah. So I joined. We ended up going to war. I did the Iraq invasion. The Iraq invasion was real cool. It was a lot of countries. We got bombed a lot. I was seeing Scuds. A Scud missile, it's like a school bus flying. They were huge, right? They're such big bombs. And I was never scared of anything. That stuff, that didn't scare me. It was, I always yell at you guys in the car. Are you scared? Yes. But when you don't care, you're not really scared. It is what it is. So I just kept doing it, and there was another time that me and my friend, while we were in the Marines, decided to do coke again because one of our friends was getting out. Another crazy situation, happened to be on the rifle range, whatever, managed to get out of it, and man, I shouldn't be saying this. Don't do drugs. It's bad. It leads to bad situations. But it was a miracle. Somehow I got out of it. I shouldn't have done it, and I got out of it. It wasn't meant to be that I didn't finish. I was always meant to spend all that time out there, I guess. So I realized I didn't like coming back here. When you're over there and you're getting bombed, everything's real serious, but it's a different kind of serious. Here, you realize people get real worried about stuff that's not really important. Nobody's gonna die. And you see, we're here at my job where I sell cars. People get real stressed out, and you see how much it affects them. But over there, it's life and death, and it's less than that. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. You don't have all that extra thoughts and stress. So I liked being out there. And I stayed out there for another 10 years. I was chief of hazmat in Kandahar, and I was in Baghdad. I used to jog along the Euphrates River, thousands of years old, and just look up there at the same sky that people looked at back then. And I ended up living in Thailand, you know, because it was easier. I didn't like flying back to the States. There was nothing for me to see here. And I had other girlfriends. And, you know, I lived a single life for a while. But eventually I met your mom. And, you know, it wasn't like we dated for a long time. We just, like, kind of did it. And then, you know, whatever. It happened. And then she got crazy after Amelia was born. She was really nice before that. And then she got like she is now. But oh man, it was hard. It was more hard because I had to go back to work. And it was 10 years of going back to work and not seeing Amelia. Not 10 years, it was like 5 years or something. And mom wouldn't let me talk to her. And that's the only thing I cared about since you were born. And I wanted so bad to talk to you every day, and mom would just say no, she wouldn't answer the phone. And it was just so hard. So then I remember we found out mom was pregnant the same day that I was buying a ticket to fly back here to take my EMT course and go back to work because I had taken 2 years off to take care of you. And it was all fighting with mom, constant fighting. You know how it is. It wasn't great. And I came back here, mom wouldn't let me talk to you. It was a long time. I was sleeping on Leah's couch, and her boyfriend Adam he stole my money. He was doing heroin, and Leah thought it was me stealing her spoons or something like that. So eventually I just started like sleeping in the car, and then I got another apartment. I was sleeping on the floor. It was messing my back all up. It was right before COVID that, no, it was way before that. Then mom got sick of taking care of you, so mom brought you here, and I remember she wouldn't talk to you. So you would sit here, and Rusty would let me leave work at 2 o'clock. That was my desk over there. He would let me leave work at 2 o'clock, come get you, and you would sit here all day. And I just worked and worked and worked and worked all day long and all night long so I could have you here. And I couldn't afford anything. All my bills were, all my money was going to mom. She was spending more money. And then eventually, I couldn't pay my bills anymore. And Rusty gave me a promotion, but that's when you had to go live with Auntie Leah, remember? So I worked harder. Eventually you came back. Right before COVID, mom didn't want to take care of Angela, and there was problems with that, and you and Angela came back. And I was working out the whole time. You know, remember I started working out? And the only reason I was working out was because I wanted to get rid of the depression. Remember I lost all the weight?
Yeah.
I lost 100 pounds in 4 months, roughly, just by not eating and intermittent fasting. And there was no real reason. I was just sick of being fat. I was 260 pounds. And I started working out a lot, you know, and I just liked, it was my time. I didn't care. I already have kids, you know, I already have mom. Who am I trying to impress? But I would read. I always, you know me, I always watch YouTube videos. I'm always learning this whole time. I'm always learning, watching movies, you know, reading, science articles, stuff like that. Learning about everything. I was learning about bodybuilding and learning about calisthenics and dietitian and stuff like that. And I learned that I don't want to do that stuff. So COVID happened, and should we go home now? Should we do this on the road now? We can. All right. So we can still talk and everything.
I'll bring the charger.
So COVID happened and everything got shut down and I couldn't go to the gym anymore. So when that happened, I started working out upstairs, and then I remember they opened up for the gym. And I said, I'm going to go every day until they close the gyms again. I'll put that in here. I'm going to carry the camera.
How dare you?
Do you want to close it? So it's easier to carry?
Can you hold my phone, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try to keep us all in the camera.
Gotcha.
So what was I talking about, Angela?
About, yeah, do you remember?
You said talk about the gym, how like the last sentence you finished, that you were going to the gym every day until it closed. You said
Yeah, so every day until it closed. And they never closed. So it was about, I don't know, 1,200 days in or something like that, that I just decided I don't want to count anything anymore. I was 42 years old. And I decided I'm not going to work out what feels better or what other people say. I'm going to do what I think feels better. I stopped counting my reps. And I just started doing what felt better. Started realizing that when I was going to the gym, I was mainly working out in a specific way to try to get rid of my anger. And what I was doing is I was always angry from everything when I was a kid. And Mom would look at me. You remember, Mom would look at me and I would get real angry, or Mom would say something and I would get real angry. Go inside the car. And so what I would do every day, I had certain rules. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I don't like talking to people.
Bluetooth pairing unsuccessful. Please check the passkey and try again.
Is it still recording, Angela?
Yeah.
All right. So, you good?
This is. Oh. Okay, this is too hard.
Just put on the seatbelt.
Okay.
All right. So, man, I really thought this was going to be an easier video. So I started going to the gym every day. I stopped counting, and I started focusing on what made me feel better. And I'll tell you what made me feel better is looking at butts. All right? Because you know I like butts, right? Do I like butts? Do I like your butts?
Yes.
But I only like girl butts. I don't like everybody's butts. So I would go to the gym and just not talk to anybody. That was my rule. I would go, I would work out in a certain way with my heart rate at a certain way every single day. And man, I think we're gonna have to edit this video. This is gonna be boring. And I would make sure everything was exactly the same every time. And you remember I used to do like contests, weight loss contests and stuff like that. Oh, look at that traffic. So it was real easy to see what was staying the same and what was changing, and I wasn't talking to anybody, so from their viewpoint I was just doing the same thing every day. They don't know what changed. So I started changing. What I started changing was my feelings, right? The first thing I started doing, my therapist now, I know, was called flooding, right? As I would think of my angry thought, right? Whatever